Hello and welcome. In this video, I wanted to share with you my very first sketchbook, which I started on December 2015, which is a year ago. So this is a craft paper sketchbook. I actually got one just like it as a gift for my niece, and she was 4 at the time. And then I thought, why not get myself one as well? So it's pretty small, it doesn't have that many pages, but it's great. It's a ring-bound sketchbook with craft paper. So on the front cover, I used this cutting device. It's a tiny cutting device made of plastic for kids, which cuts out these flower shapes. And so I had this red paper with this ornamental design. For years, I had it in my stash, and then I thought, why not just cut it up into flowers and use that as an element for myself and my niece in our arts and crafts creations. On the inside, I wrote down when I started and when I finished this sketchbook. And I'm really glad I did because, it's so easy to forget. And this is sort of a chronological reminder of where I was at the time. Now, this very first sketch I really love. It's, again, a leafy sort of motif. I tend to doodle a lot of leaves. And then I sort of slice up each leaf into long slices. And in each slice, I doodle sort of a different design. And I know that this was not the first time I doodled this sort of idea. I remember several doodles I made before this one on loose paper, which had that similar idea incorporated into it. And in each one, it sort of looked different. In these next pages, I was still doodling with black technical pen. And then I tried to incorporate some color. So on the left, I used gel pens, which I did not like. I didn't like the color. And then on the right, you can see that again, I was using that flower die cut, just like the one on the cover, but I also colored onto the flowers with the black technical pen. Here again with the gel pens, which I did not like their color. It was just too dull. What I did on this page was to use some white Bristol board paper and to color it in with some Pro markers, which are like Copic markers. And they're alcohol-based markers. They're very vibrant, but only on white paper. Then cut those out and paste them into this craft paper sketchbook to make the color vibrant and pop. So I think it achieved it, and I think it looks pretty nice, but I still think it has this sort of cutout effect, even the one on the right. So I liked it, but I didn't want to keep going. I wanted to sort of find a different way to incorporate color into a craft paper sketchbook. So on this next page, you can see what happens when you use water-based markers on a craft paper sketchbook. The color is as to be expected. It looks dull and sort of washed out. I didn't like it very much, but it was good to see what it looks like. Here again, I tried to incorporate cut-out pieces of Bristol board into the doodle a little bit more organically. It's nice, but I didn't want to pursue that route so much. Here on the right page, you can see that, again, I used cutout pieces of white paper, which were colored with Pro markers. And if I turn it around, I think it looks a bit like a waiter robot. So that's the eye. This is one of his arms, and this is another arm that's holding a tray. At least that's what it looked like when it was finished. It wasn't planned to be a waiter robot. And this is where I got paint markers. These are Liquitex paint markers. They're relatively expensive. I think they cost about $5 per marker. And I got 2. You can see that they have this plastic sheen. They leave like a plastic sheen on the paper. And that's different from Uniposca paint markers. The Uniposca paint markers do not leave this plastic sheen. I'll have a separate video about those. So here you can see that the Liquitex paint markers, in order to get this very solid color, I had to go over the color maybe twice, meaning I had to put down 2 coats or maybe 3 coats of the paint marker. The tip is a chisel tip, and it doesn't give you that much control. It's not like a precise tip. So that was one challenge of working with them, but I absolutely loved them. The color was popping, and that was when I realized what the difference was between a color like a Pro marker, which stains the paper, and so it really matters what color the paper is, as opposed to a paint marker, which actually sits on the paper and covers the paper, coats the paper, just like you would paint a wall. If you painted a black wall in pink, it will be pink, but if you use the pink Pro marker on a black piece of paper, you just won't see it. I started to understand the technology of water-based markers, alcohol-based markers, paint markers, the whole issue of opacity and translucency. In this page, you can see that I was having a lot of fun with my niece's art supplies. She generously allowed me to use them. These were like stickers, sort of plastic gems. And here again, I'm cutting out that flower cutout shape out of this foam, which has some glitter on it. And then I also pasted some torn out yellow strips of paper. The inspiration for this page was that I was just showing my niece what could be done, and obviously I was helping her tear strips of paper and glue it down, and then as she was working, I was also working. It was so much fun to work with a 4-year-old and to experiment with our art supplies so freely. In this next page, you can see that I'm trying to work with the paint markers, get it to sort of be more organic into the doodle and into the page. And you can see that I'm also coloring around with the black technical pen and also inside the paint. So sometimes I paint a large area and then I obscure part of it using the black technical pen. Here again with these snakes, you can see by the shine that these were long snaky shapes. And after they dried, I colored around these circles to create the black around them. And I really love this leafy design. I guess you can tell that I kind of like drawing leaves. It's just a lot of fun to draw that kind of shape and to decorate the inside of the leaf. I really love these two pages, and I think for me they remind me that I was starting to get into the groove of this sketchbook and of the paint marker and the designs and the doodles, and I felt that it was taking me literally to new places. Just to have this experimentation as opposed to just working on white paper over and over again on the same white paper. This one on the left is a doodle where the elements are not connected, and that's different from what I usually do. And the one on the right is some more experimentation with my niece's art supplies. It was so much fun to do. And you know, it's one of those things that I had so much fun doing, and I actually liked the result, and I think I could take it further, but I just sort of forgot about it. And that's why it's great to have this sketchbook to look through and to remember and to remind me how it felt to use these tools and whether I'd like to go back and try again. I don't tend to do that. I don't tend to go back and revisit ideas that I used to have, which I thought were good ideas, which I still think were good ideas. So I should do that. I'd like to do that some more. This one on the left, again, with the stickers for my niece's collection. And on the right, I used a finer point of a fine liner to doodle on this one. And again, with that snaky shape. I was listening to an audiobook by William Somerset Maugham, and his English is exquisite. He's such a great storyteller. So I just wrote down one of the random sentences that was in that book. Here again with snakes, but different doodles inside of them. And you can see that, again, I filled in these large snakes and then colored over them and doodled over them. On the right is a piece of wrapping paper that I got, so I pasted it on and doodled over it. So in a way, this is more of a mixed media sketchbook, I guess, as opposed to just a doodling sketchbook. This is the last doodle I doodled in this sketchbook, and the last 2 pages were made by my 4-year-old niece. She's 5 today, so this was my first sketchbook tour. I hope you found it interesting, and so I wanted to ask you, do you use loose pieces of paper or do you use sketchbooks? Are you using a sketchbook right now? And what kind of paper is in that sketchbook? And have you tried using Kraft paper in a sketchbook or as loose paper? I'd really love to hear from you and learn from you as well. So I'd appreciate it if you left me a comment down below. And thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, leave a like, and share on social media if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.